Welcome back, everyone. Oz here, and today I've got some r/EntitledPeople for you all. As per usual, I'll be reading the post, giving you my opinions at the end, and I hope you do the same down in the comments below. And without further ado, let's jump right into it. Posted by u/FXLearner. Kids dropped off on our porch. I won't make this post long, happened a few hours ago. Me and my girlfriend do not have kids, so we have extra free time, as we always get told by my cousin, who has 4 kids, all minors. She had been joking around lately and saying we should take care of the children, all of them, as she's booked a cruise with her new boyfriend. We didn't pay any attention to it as it sounded absurd and just laughed along with her. We both have an extra day off as it was a long weekend, and heard some knocking on the door at 7 a.m. in the morning. We knew it wouldn't be the postman as they don't arrive that early and weren't expecting any visitors. I go down to check who it is and see my cousins, 4 kids, out there, in the cold, mother nowhere in sight. I open the door and bring them in because it's freezing outside and they have no jackets on. Then asked where the mother is. They said she told us that you would take care of us while she's on her cruise. So we took the bus and came to your house. I couldn't believe my eyes and ears. I kept thinking, what the fuck? So I called her immediately and her phone was off. Called her new boyfriend and his phone went to voicemail. I asked the kids to explain exactly what their mom has told them. They said in these words, "She said since you don't have any responsibilities and have free time, you said you would look after us while she's gone." What do? I called my aunt and she said the same thing, that my cousin has told her I agreed to take care of the kids. She didn't even have the courtesy to drop them off and made them catch the bus on a cold winter day. Thinking of calling child services at this point. Update, cops have arrived at my door with DOCS. I did not call them. We'll update shortly. For those of you wondering, this takes place in Australia, so DOCS is the Department of Community Services. Update, kids dropped off on my porch. Alright, here's what actually went down a few hours after my cousin's kids showed up at our place. We're still trying to figure out what to do. Gave them food, put the heater on, got them settled. Still no word from their mom or her boyfriend. Both phones going straight to voicemail. Then, around 10:30 a.m., I get a call from a private number. It's the police. They ask if I've got 4 kids at my house. I said yes and explained the situation. Turns out the bus driver who dropped them off is the one who called it in. Apparently, on the ride over, the kids told him they were going to stay with family and gave him our address. He thought it was odd that 4 young kids were traveling alone in the cold with no bags or jackets. So, after dropping them off, he reported it for a welfare check, just to be safe. A short while later, both police and child protection show up at my door. They were honestly great, calm, but clearly taking it seriously. I told them everything, showed them the text where my cousin had joked about us watching the kids. Nothing confirmed anything. Explained how we had no warning, and that they had just showed up, saying we'd agreed. The kids said their mom told them we had plenty of free time and would be happy to take them. Then, about an hour and a half after that, police tell me they've gone to the cruise terminal and found her on the ship. The ship was in Circular Quay in the city, not too far from my place, and was scheduled to leave at 3:30 p.m. She had already boarded, ready to sail off with her new boyfriend. They pulled her off and told her she had to come immediately. No argument. She showed up at our house, looking completely unbothered. Full cruise outfit, sunglasses on her head, lanyard around her neck. Didn't even look at the kids, just walked in and said, "Did you seriously get the police involved?" I told her she left 4 kids with no warning, no gear, and no contact info. She starts going off about how I embarrassed her and ruined her holiday. Then my aunt calls, her mom, yelling at me, saying I'd gone too far and that she paid for the cruise as a treat for her daughter, and I'd wasted her money. No concern at all about what actually happened. Meanwhile, child protection was taking a statement from me and telling my cousin this was a serious neglect issue and would be investigated. She didn't seem to care. Grabbed the kids, didn't say thank you, didn't apologize, and just left, like I was the one in the wrong. I tried to call my aunt and her a while after to explain that I was not the one who called the police and child services, but they wouldn't believe me, and both have blocked my number. Update 2. Didn't think I'd be writing another update, but the situation just keeps escalating. A couple of days after my cousin came to pick up the kids, after being dragged off the cruise ship, FACS got back in touch and asked a few follow-up questions. Family and Community Services. They mentioned they had contacted the kid's biological father and informed him of what had happened. I didn't even know he was still around. From what I remembered, he'd moved out to regional NSW, New South Wales, years ago, I think somewhere near Wagga. Apparently, he's been paying child support and trying to stay in touch, but my cousin made it almost impossible. Would ignore his calls, block him, cancel visits, that sort of thing. Well, when he found out what she did, leaving the kids to catch a bus alone in winter and dumping them on our doorstep, he was furious. Drove straight to Sydney that same night. He came to our house the next morning. Genuinely nice guy. Clearly shaken, but calm. He said he just wanted to hear everything from someone who was there. We sat down and talked for a while. He asked how the kids were, if they said anything, and what exactly happened. You could tell he really cared. Then he told me straight up, he's going to apply for full custody. He said he's been documenting everything for years, the canceled visits, the excuses, the strange behavior when the kids did come back to him, and this was the final straw. Leaving them like that without even a message? He said he wouldn't let them grow up thinking that was normal. I told him I fully supported him. Those kids deserve stability. He thanked us for not turning them away and for caring for them when no one else did. Then he left to speak with a solicitor. Now, on to something I didn't expect and honestly still can't believe. Our car was vandalized last night. All 4 tires slashed. Nothing else touched. Just the tires. We noticed it this morning when my girlfriend went to head out. No note, no witnesses. Unfortunately, we don't have cameras installed, but we've asked neighbors if they have any footage from overnight. Can't say for sure who did it, but given the timing, I've got a few guesses, especially since a familiar member called us yesterday blaming us for turning the family against my cousin. No proof yet, but we've reported to the police just in case. Honestly, we're exhausted. We didn't ask for any of this. Just tried to do the right thing when 4 kids showed up freezing on our doorstep. The entire family is believing her version of the story. I'm thinking of compiling a Facebook post with all the information to prove what happened, as things are getting serious now. Kudos to OP for taking the necessary steps that were right. And kudos to the bus driver for seeing something fucked up and actually acting on it, and not just turning a blind eye. If I was OP, I'd put the fucker on blast. I mean, genuinely. If you weren't home, just out of some chance you had to leave early that morning, and those kids had a different bus driver who did not give a shit, what were they going to do? Freeze to death in the cold? Seriously, those kids are lucky. The dice were rolled and you were home and the bus driver cared. If that wasn't the case and they rolled differently, it could have been horrible. Your cousin is lucky they're only looking at neglect charges. Seriously. I mean, this is ridiculous. So yeah, I'd say definitely put her on blast on Facebook. And then on top of it, help her ex do everything in his power to get the kids back. Sending them out in the winter with no fucking coats on? Who is going to pay for the food? Seriously, there are so many questions about this of just the assumed entitlement of the cousin, of just, if they just show up, what are they gonna do? Call the police on family? What about food? What about caring for them? What about space? There are so many steps going on at this point in time. Are they on winter break? Do they have school? What's their school schedule look like? Seriously. 4 kids showing up without any supplies, no notes, no instructions, no contact information? What do they do in an emergency? What if there's allergies? So many fucking questions, and there's no goddamn answers for a single one of them. My guess would be she was probably unbothered when she showed up because she genuinely thought that once she cleared up the fact that OP is just neglecting their responsibilities that she forcefully placed onto them, that she could go back to her cruise and all would be settled. She put 4 lives at risk to go on a fucking cruise. Bring the hammer down. Stream Jara. My fiance's entitled sister tried to force her way into my bridal party and then tried to replan our entire wedding. So, something happened during my wedding, and I wish to share it here. My fiance and I are planning a small, intimate wedding, just our closest friends and family. Nothing too over the top. I picked my bridal party carefully, my best friend, my sister, and 2 of my closest cousins. That's it. We didn't include Lena. Not because of anything personal, but because we're not close. She lives in another state, we barely talk, and frankly, she's known for being dramatic and making things about herself. But when the invites went out, I got a long, angry message from her. Wait, I'm not a bridesmaid? I just assumed I was. I already bought a dress for the wedding and everything. I responded kindly and explained it's a small bridal party of people I've known and been close to for years. She said, I'm literally your future sister-in-law. That automatically makes me one. You can't exclude family like that. I honestly thought that would be the end of it. I was wrong. Lena decided to unilaterally insert herself into the planning. She created a group chat with my actual bridesmaids without me and started trying to plan a bachelorette weekend in Las Vegas. For context, I don't drink. I hate clubs and had already made plans for a relaxing cabin weekend with my girls. Lena had never even asked what I wanted. Then she sent me a PowerPoint titled, Elevating Your Wedding, Lena's Aesthetic Suggestions. She wanted to change our entire color scheme because the sage green dresses I picked washed her out. And she said we should go with burgundy and gold for a more luxurious vibe. Spoiler, I'm wearing ivory lace in a garden. It would have clashed horrifically. At this point, I'd had enough. I called her out and said, Lena, you're not in the bridal party. You're more than welcome to attend, but you need to stop trying to take over. This isn't your wedding. She immediately got defensive. Wow, so now I'm just some outsider? I'm trying to help make your wedding less basic, and you clearly don't know how these things work. I stayed calm and said, no, I know exactly how I want my wedding to be. I'm not asking for your approval, and you are absolutely not going to disrespect my boundaries. Fast forward to the wedding day. Lena shows up in a long, dramatic black sequin dress, totally out of place, and tried to line up with the actual bridesmaids before the ceremony. I had to personally stop her and tell her to sit down, and no, she wasn't walking in with the bridal party. She spent the whole night sulking at a table and telling anyone who would listen that I was controlling, jealous of her confidence, and trying to push her out of the family. I just think she wanted a trip to Vegas that would have been paid for, and that's why she was so pushy on it. Ooh, my sister-in-law's bridal party. That's gonna be a lot of fun, right? Lots of partying and all that kind of stuff. God, I hope I'm in. Wait, I'm not in? Well, I'm gonna insert myself in. Wait, it's just a cabin night? Well, time to make a PowerPoint presentation of why it should be pretty much just a Vegas vacation. Yeah! That's my pet theory as to what happened. And then when it got turned down, she just got very exactly how she turned out. Emotional and saying that they're jealous of my confidence. That's my pet theory, though. What about you guys? What's your theory on what went down here? I think mine's pretty accurate, but I'd love to hear a few additionals. Gremlins. Karen called HR because she wasn't invited to our little get-together. So, me and some of my coworkers had a little get-together during the weekend after a very stressful week. It wasn't anything fancy. We just decided on the spot that day to go to the park and have a little picnic by the creek. Just some beers and takeouts. We posted photos on Facebook. The following week, we were informed by HR that Karen made a complaint that she was being ostracized, and it was affecting her mental health. Karen, by the way, being the micromanager that she was partly responsible for making the previous week very stressful. We challenged HR to find anything wrong with spending the weekend with people you get along with, and paying for food and gas with our own money on our own time. As you can imagine, nothing happened. The following week, we posted another batch of photos of our group at the beach with some more people from work. Just made sure that Karen saw it. Oh, come on. Weren't you aware you're not allowed to have fun outside of work hours? Your entire existence belongs to the company. Didn't you read your contract? Karen was only trying to help to re-educate you on the company policy that having fun is simply illegal. Unless she's around. She has to be around. If she's not around, no one's allowed to have fun without her. Why else do you think she got HR involved? It couldn't possibly be to hope to enforce retribution for the fact that no one likes her and doesn't want her around outside of company hours. No, she was just trying to help re-educate and inform you of company policy. that having fun is illegal. Obviously. R. Moby 6160 called the police over a parking spot. So a few years ago, I briefly worked in a screen printing factory. It was located in a business plaza next to a bunch of the other factories and whatnot. So the parking lot was shared by all the businesses. It was a decently sized parking lot. Even when it was full, there were still plenty of spaces. So anyway, at the time, I was driving my mom's old car. Wasn't the worst, but wasn't the best either. Just something to get to and from. One day during our lunch break, I tried to start my car, and it was dead. I was irritated, but it didn't really affect anything. One of my coworkers lived near me, so he was able to give me a lift home. I didn't have anywhere else to be besides there and home, so I wasn't worried about being without a car for a day or two. I talked to my boss about leaving it there overnight till I could figure out a time to get it towed, and he had no problem with it. The next morning, my boss walks up to me and jokes that my car trouble is causing drama. Turns out, my car was parked in the spot that one of the employees at one of the neighboring businesses liked to park at. In his exact words, it was the guy's favorite spot. Don't ask me why. I've spent many sleepless nights wondering how or why someone could have a favorite parking spot. I've heard of people who grow romantic attachments to buildings and vehicles, but never a parking spot. I felt bad about it, because I like to respect people's feelings, but my boss told me not to worry about it. So I didn't. The guy worked at one of the businesses my boss didn't like, so he honestly found it all sort of funny. His main concern was not having to put up with the dude, so he just wanted me to get it taken care of before he whined anymore. It's also worth mentioning that this spot had no signs. It wasn't marked as reserved, had no names labeled on it, or a handicap spot. It wasn't even under a tree or anywhere near one of the building entrances. Literally, just a parking spot. There was nothing beneficial about parking your car there, besides parking your fucking car there. Then it comes time to go home. We all clock out, and people are crowded around the windows. There's about 3 or 4 cop cars outside, and one guy frantically talking to all the officers. We're here thinking someone got hurt, or robbed, or, something terrible enough for a bunch of cops to show up and block all our cars in. The bystander effect was in full effect. But nope, parking spot dude was so upset about not being able to park his car in his beloved spot for one day, barely 12 hours, that he called the police and reported my vehicle as suspicious and was trying to have it impounded. It's not every day where I feel bad for police officers, but man, the cop that he was whining to looked beyond over his shit. He looked like an extremely annoyed father dealing with an unruly toddler. Which was even funnier because he looked about half the parking spot guy's age. So I walk up, and the dude immediately points at me and goes, "That's him! That's his car!" Acting like I was America's Most Wanted. And I'm gonna be honest, I got a little nervous. I have priors. Cops don't entirely like me. I don't entirely like having to talk to cops. And now, some man Karen is pointing me out to a group of officers. But the cop casually walks up to me and just asks me the standard questions. I show up my license, proving the car was mine, and it's legit and all of that. And I explain how the battery's dead and was just waiting for a good time to have it towed. He was chill as hell with me, honestly. Well, parking spot dude was not pleased with the cop's chillness. In fact, he was quite offended. He's hovering around trying to listen in on our conversation. I don't know exactly what he was hoping would happen, but he slowly realized that it was going the exact opposite of his wishes. He butts in, going, "Aren't you gonna give him a ticket? Can't he be arrested for this?" Just desperately trying to take control of the situation and find some way to make my life miserable. And the cop just sighs and goes, "Sir, it's not illegal to have a dead battery." And was about to give a lecture on what's illegal before parking spot dude just goes full-blown Karen mode, stamping his feet, screeching about police being corrupt bastards. The usual grief from someone not having their way. We all just stand there, watching this grown man throw a temper tantrum, and he finally realizes that nobody cares about him and his precious parking spot. So he just storms off back into the building. I'm sure all his coworkers got to hear about it. The cops eventually leave. They don't even write down my info or anything. It was obvious from the get-go that they didn't give a shit about me and my car. They pulled up expecting a big bust. and all they got was a kid with car trouble and a toddler trapped in an old man's body. I was kind of disappointed they didn't arrest him or give him a fine, but you can't have everything. As relieved as I was super embarrassed to have all that happen in front of everyone. But they were all just blown away by how the dude was acting. I was hoping to have my car dealt with that day since it was close to the weekend, but out of spite, I kept it there for another day or two. I later found out that the dude ended up losing his job over the whole ordeal, between getting the police involved and, presumably, making it everyone's problem. I could only imagine how done they all were with him. He seemed like a joy to be around. My boss thought it was the funniest shit ever and never lived it down. He loves to joke about getting me arrested for coming in late because, of course he did. Bosses have the same sense of humor as dads. I eventually left that job for bigger and better things and got a new car that doesn't spontaneously shit out on me. But, man, I'll never forget about Parking Spot Dude and the massive injustice he suffered because of me. I'm sure he's doing well, if even still alive. Too long didn't read, a man became so obsessed with a parking spot that it cost him his job, as well as his dignity. What kind of state of mind or position of life do you have to be in to actively hope and wish someone gets arrested or fined for parking your parking space? I'm kind of just genuinely bewildered because I've kind of just been staring at this post for a bit now, trying to figure out what to even say about it, beyond just how do you reach this point in your life where a parking spot is this important to you, to where you're actively willing to ruin someone else's life over it? Someone please help me understand. Marshmallow Twinkle. My cousin demanded I change my wedding date because it clashed with her dog's birthday party. When my husband and I were planning our wedding, we picked a fall weekend that worked best for our schedules and the venue's ability. We sent out save the dates about 6 months in advance. Plenty of notice, I thought. A week after we sent them out, my cousin, Light Scholar Kelsey, called me in full drama mode. She said, "Wait, October 14th? You didn't really pick that date, did you?" I thought maybe I missed a family birthday or something, so I asked what was wrong. Her response, "That's Bentley's birthday weekend." I asked, "Who's Bentley?" Her actual answer, "My dog." I laughed, thinking she was joking, but she wasn't. She told me she had already booked a local dog park for a huge Bark Day bash and invited a bunch of people from her neighborhood and local dog group. She insisted it would be a huge inconvenience for her if I didn't change the wedding day to the following weekend. I told her no. We had already signed contracts, sent invitations, and honestly, I couldn't believe I was even having this conversation. Later that week, she went on a social media rant saying, "Some people prioritize themselves over family traditions, and real friends don't plan weddings on meaningful dates." A few mutual friends messaged me, confused about what she was even talking about. In the end, Kelsey didn't show up to the wedding. Neither did Bentley, shockingly. My favorite comment from Accomplished Lee 506 reads, "As a reply on social media, I'm terribly sorry to hear you won't be able to attend my wedding due to your dog's birthday being on the same day. I hope you have a fantastic birthday, and maybe we'll be able to find some time to catch up with you after the honeymoon." How dare you plan your wedding on the same day as Bentley's birthday? How are you going to explain this to Bentley? This is one of those stories where it's just crazy enough for me to wonder, this feels fake, but I know there are people in this world who are like this, and it's just something of I've heard crazier, but this is still pretty fucking insane. Bentley won't know if you celebrate his birthday 3 or 4 days later, and it was still 6 months ahead of time, so you could have just sent out a message to everyone who was attending, "Hey, we're shifting the date to this date here." You could have called the dog park and asked for a reschedule. It was 6 months ahead of time. Bentley won't fucking know if you rescheduled his birthday. He's a dog. Granted, my father's dogs are weirdly aware when it's Christmas morning, so I don't know. I think it might just be the fact that my dad gets stocking stuffers for the dogs and has them actually open their presents and they just go fucking crazy for it. So that might be what it is. They just get excited when they see the once-a-year stocking come down full of new toys for them to harass the family with. Aromatic Dare 6104. Customer says I'm unfriendly. I work in a pharmacy, and we sell orthopedic shoes also. So this elder couple comes in, and the woman is complaining about her blisters and says, "Oh, thank goodness you have shoes for me. Give me these yellow ones to try on it, and I'll take them, just to get rid of these. They are horrible." Her old shoes are terribly worn out and dirty, and her feet are dirty and blistery. She takes them off and stands there, on the floor, barefoot. I mean, okay, but first red flag. I get her the shoes to try on and give her the footies, little nylon socks, which are mandatory to stop spreading fungus, etc., or to prevent messing up the shoes. She then takes the shoe and the footies, but complains because she won't know if they fit or not with the footies. I say, "Ma'am, the footies are very thin. They're nylon. Please wear them, everyone else has to." And then I left them alone and tended to other customers while she tried them on for about 10 minutes. I return after that to see that she has already put her dirty shoes in the box of the shoes I brought her and wearing the shoes without the footies. So I ask, "Well, you like them? Good. You can keep them on your feet, I'll wrap up your box with the old ones." She says, "Yes, I like them, but they have a stain on top." I take a look and yes, she stained them. Of course, with her dirty feet on top and bottom. And they are yellow, so it's noticeable. She says they were stained before, but I took them out of the box for her, and I know they 100% weren't. She insists for another pair of the same number, and I wouldn't budge. And this is where she really pushed my buttons, because now the shoes and the box are filthy. So I say in the most polite way I could, "Ma'am, you put your filthy shoes in the box, and the stain is from your dirty feet. I told you to wear footies. Now, will you need a bag for that?" They start to whisper to one another, and she says she needs to think some more. I say okay, and leave them for another 10 minutes. She then calls me and asks for a 5% discount. I tell her no, because there was absolutely nothing wrong with the shoes. And then she calls me rude and unfriendly, and her husband says I'm not good for business. Not a good salesperson, and I'm very rude. I said, "Mister, I'm not a salesperson, I'm a pharmacist. I told her to wear footies, and I'm not here to make friends. It's my job." She pays for the shoes all grumpy and demonstratively takes her old filthy shoes out of the new box and puts them in her purse. I politely said, "Thank you, and goodbye, as always." Ugh. I wish I could be rude to them sometimes because interactions like these drain the soul out of me. Sorry for bad grammar, guys. I just had to vent somewhere, and English is not my language. Thank you for listening. Honestly, I'm kind of shocked that you, left them alone for 10 minutes after they made it clear they had no interest in buying the shoes. I would have been scared they would have just, repackaged the shoes and put them back on the shelf or something like that. Ugh. That was a hell of a gamble to make, my dude. Oh my god. Because of my grandmother, I have, a fear of having, really bad feet. Because, I've seen what neglecting them can do and just how bad it can get. So I'm pretty much on top of that. And, I will lather my feet in lotion pretty frequently just because I don't want it to get to the point where it's like my grandmother's feet. I don't want to describe it because it is vile. So even though that, I try to take as much care of my feet as I possibly can, when I'm still going shoe shopping, I will still put on the little socks and booties and whatnot because I don't know who else has put those shoes on. And I also don't want to be the person who's putting my bare feet into new shoes that I may not be buying. I'm not only risking my feet, but I'm also risking someone else's feet. And because I always wear socks with shoes, I never have to worry about needing those little nylon booties. But foot fears aside, I can't even imagine refusing to wear the nylon booties if you don't have full intention of purchasing the shoes. And then after putting your feet in there without the nylon booties that the pharmacist specifically asked you to wear, "Oh, I don't want these anymore. I want to get a different pair because these ones have stains on them," even though they just came fresh out of the box. Oh, I want a 5% discount because my feet stained them, even though they came fresh out of the box. How disrespectful and rude that you won't give me a 5% discount on an item that I soiled. Just, ugh. Don't forget, this is brought to you by GamerSupps. Use code ODDS at checkout. It's basically a caffeine powder that you put in your water, and I actually really like it. I use this on a daily basis. Don't forget that every purchase you make using code ODDS directly supports the channel. And if you want a personal recommendation from me, I would either recommend the Soda Pressing Pear or Dragon Fruit Punch. Those two are currently my favorite flavors. And as a note, once we sell a certain amount of stuff, I get my own flavor and my own cup, and you all know I'm gonna choose some degenerate shit that's gonna make their PR team squirm. My goal is to make them regret partnering with me. So please, use code ODDS at checkout to make my dream come true of making a PR team squirm.